The door to the locker room slammed shut behind me, echoing like a gunshot in the suddenly suffocating air. Giovanni's voice cracked through the steam-hazed silence, raw and ragged. "Jameson, I can't keep pretending. It's you, it's always been you, and if I don't say it now, it'll destroy me." My cleats stuck to the tiled floor as I spun around, heart pounding like a bass drum in my chest, facing the one guy who'd pulled me through hell and back, now standing there shirtless and shattered, his dark eyes pleading for a lifeline I wasn't sure I could throw. That moment hit like a blindside tackle. Unexpected, brutal, and impossible to shake off. We'd been inseparable since freshman year at Lincoln High in dusty Bible Belt, Indiana. Two kids from fractured homes who'd found solace in the grind of Friday night lights. I was Jameson Hale, the quarterback with the cannon arm and the chip on my shoulder from a dad who bailed when I was 10, leaving mom to scrape by on diner shifts. Giovanni Russo, Gio to everyone but me, was the wide receiver, all lean muscle and olive skin from his Italian immigrant grandparents, with a laugh that could light up the bleachers and secrets buried deeper than the goal line dirt. Our friendship was the kind forged in fire. Late-night drives in my beat-up Ford pickup, blasting Springsteen until the windows rattled, sharing smokes behind the bleachers when losses stung too bad. We'd patched each other's wounds after brutal practices, Coach Harlan barking orders like a drill sergeant, his face redder than the team helmets. Gio was the one who dragged me out of my post-divorce funk, teaching me to throw spirals in the empty lot behind his nana's house, her lasagna waiting as reward. And me? I was the shield for his quieter storms, the way he'd flinch at his old man's drunken rants about real men, or how he'd stare too long at the sunset, lost in thoughts he never voiced. But that afternoon after the semifinal slaughter against Rivwharton, us down 28-7 in the mud-soaked fourth quarter, everything cracked wide open. The bus ride home was a funeral procession, helmets clanking in laps, the acrid smell of defeat clinging like wet grass. I kept stealing glances at Gio, slumped by the window, his jaw set like he was chewing on glass. We'd blown it on that last play, my pass wobbling short, his route clipped by their safety. Coach had ripped us both in the huddle, calling it a fairy tale fumble for two pansy-ass princes. The words landed like shrapnel, but Gio just nodded, eyes on the floor. I wanted to deck the old bastard, but what good would that do? Harlan was old-school America personified, leather tough, flag-waving, with a zero-tolerance policy for anything that didn't fit his gridiron gospel. By the time we hit the locker room, most of the team had cleared out, nursing bruises and egos at the local Sonic. It was just us, the ghosts of glory days echoing off the cinderblock walls plastered with faded pennants from '89 state champs. I was stripping off my pads, the weight lifting like a confession, when Joe's whisper stopped me cold. He was perched on the bench, towel slung low, his broad shoulders hunched like he carried the whole damn team's failures. "Jameson," he said again, voice barely above the drip of a leaky showerhead. "We gotta talk. For real this time." I froze, laces half undone on my sneakers. Talk? We'd talk through everything. My mom's cancer scare last summer, the way it hollowed her out until she was just bones and bad jokes. His sister's overdose freshman year, the guilt that turned his smiles brittle. But this felt different, heavier, like the air before a tornado siren. "Gio, man, not now," I muttered, yanking my jersey over my head, the sting of sweat in my eyes. "Coach is gonna bench us both if we don't shake this off." He stood then, all 6'2" of him uncoiling like a spring, his chest rising and falling too fast. The fluorescent buzz overhead cast harsh shadows, making his face look carved from marble, high cheekbones, that perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, eyes the color of storm clouds over Lake Michigan. "That's the problem, Jay. Shaking it off. I've been shaking for years, and it's breaking me." His hands clenched at his sides, knuckles white. "You remember that party at Tucker's last month? When everyone was hammered on cheap beer, chanting for shots? How could I forget? Tucker's sprawling ranch house on the edge of town, cornfields whispering secrets to the night, red Solo cups littering the deck like fallen soldiers. We'd crashed there after a win, the high still buzzing, but Gio had vanished halfway through, leaving me to fend off questions from the cheer squad. I'd found him later by the fire pit, staring into the flames like they held answers. "Yeah," I said slowly, sinking onto the bench opposite him, the cold metal biting through my shorts. You bailed early. Said you felt sick. He laughed, a bitter bark that echoed off the lockers. Sick? Try terrified. Because I saw you, Jay, laughing with that girl from bio, your arm around her like it was nothing. And it gutted me. Not because of her, but because, God, because I wanted it to be me. The words hung there, thick as the humidity, and my brain short-circuited. Wanted it to be him? Like, what? Brothers didn't say shit like that. Not in Indiana, where the biggest scandal was Pastor Jenkins' affair with the choir director. And even that got hushed with love the sinner, hate the sin whispers. Gio, you're not. I started, but he cut me off, stepping closer, close enough I could smell the salt on his skin, the faint cedar of his soap. Don't you dare, not me. I've known since we were kids, Jay. That summer at Bible camp, when we snuck out to the lake and you dared me to swim naked under the moon. I didn't just feel the cold water. I felt alive because it was you daring me. You, with your stupid grin and that scar on your knee from wiping out on your bike. I've buried it, joked it off with the team, dated that girl from art class last year just to prove I could. But it's you. Always you. The room spun, a vortex of steam and shadows, my pulse thundering in my ears. Part of me wanted to bolt, pretend this was post-game delirium, blame it on the adrenaline crash. But another part, the part that remembered him holding my hand through Mom's chemo vigils, whispering, "We got this," when the doctors' faces said otherwise, rooted me there. Gio, I whispered, my voice foreign in my throat. What the hell are we doing? If anyone hears. I know. He raked a hand through his damp curls, pacing like a caged lion. That's why I'm saying it now, here, where no one's listening but the ghosts. Because tomorrow, coach benches us, and the scouts from Purdue ghost us, and this season ends in a whimper. And I can't go out like that, Jay. Not without you knowing I'm all in for the game, for the fight, for us. His eyes locked on mine, fierce and fragile. And in that gaze, I saw the boy who'd shared his last protein bar after a double practice, who'd covered for me when I snuck beers from Dad's old stash. Trusted him more than anyone? Hell, I'd die for him. But love? That word twisted like a knife, unfamiliar and terrifying in its truth. I stood, closing the gap, my hand hovering near his arm before dropping. You're my brother, man. My ride or die. But this. I trailed off, the words tangling. Outside, the parking lot gravel crunched under tires. Someone forgetting their keys, maybe, but it felt like the whole town holding its breath. Give me time, Gio. Please. He nodded, deflating like a punctured ball. But there was a spark in his eyes, a quiet defiance. Time's all I've got left. As I grabbed my bag and headed for the door, the weight of his confession settled on me like shoulder pads, heavy but unbreakable. Little did I know, the real hit was coming, the betrayal that would test every ounce of that trust, forcing me to choose between the brother I loved and the world that wanted to tear us apart. The next week blurred into a haze of drills and denial, the field turning into a battlefield where every snap felt like a standoff. Coach Harlan amped up the brutality, his whistle shrieking like a banshee, punishing us for that Riverton loss with suicides until our lungs burned and legs wobbled. Haile, Husu. You two clowns think romance novels got a place on my turf? He'd bellow, eyes narrowing like he could smell the shift between us. I laughed it off, slapping Gio on the back a little too hard. But inside, his words festered like an untreated bruise, sweet ache mixed with panic. We didn't talk about it, not directly. Instead, we fell into this charged silence, stolen glances across the huddle, his fingers brushing mine when passing the Gatorade jug. Nights, I'd lie in my twin bed staring at the water-stained ceiling, Mom's night shift snores drifting from the hall, replaying that locker room confessional on loop. Was it the heat of the moment, or had I been blind to the signs? The way he'd linger after showers, towel-dried and teasing, or how he'd memorize my stats better than his own. Gay. The word echoed in my head, loaded like a chambered round, straight out of the slurs we dodged in the hallways from meathead upperclassmen. But with Gio, it didn't feel dirty. It felt like home, like the curve of a perfect spiral. Then came the betrayal, sly as a pick six, courtesy of Tyler Tyke Bradshaw. Our slot receiver, Golden boy with daddy's law firm money and a smirk that could curdle milk. Tyke had always been the wild card. The one who'd spike the Gatorade with Jack during away games, whispering locker room gospel about keeping it straight or sitting the bench. I chalked it up to frat boy bullshit, but after practice Wednesday, he cornered me by the vending machine. All faux concern and cologne. "Jay, bro, we need to chat about your boy," he drawled, popping a quarter into the slot for a Mountain Dew. The machine hummed, indifferent, as he leaned in, breath sour with chew. "Russo's been actin' squirrely. Heard him on the phone last night, crying to some dude in Chicago. Something about coming out and ruining everything. You know he's one of them, right? Recruited that fairy vibe from his mama's side." My blood iced over, fists clenching around my keys. "Watch your mouth, Tyke. Joe's solid. Saved your ass on that crossing route against Hamilton." But even as I defended him, doubt wormed in. Chicago? Gio had mentioned cousins up there once. But tears? Secrets? Tyke just shrugged, cracking his can open with a hiss. "Just saying, Captain. Don't want it bleedin' onto the field. Harlan catches wind, we're all sunk. Protect the team, yeah?" I brushed it off, storming to my truck. But the seed was planted. That night, rain lashing the windshield like accusations, I drove to Joe's place on the wrong side of the tracks. Shotgun shacks with peeling paint, porches sagging under the weight of too many hard winters. His nana answered the door, flour-dusted apron and a smile like warm bread. "Jameson, Giovanni's in the garage, tinkerin' with that old Vespa of his papa's." I nodded thanks, heart hammering as I slipped through the side yard, the downpour soaking my hoodie. The garage lights spilled yellow onto the gravel, a sanctuary of oil stains and half-fixed engines. Gio was hunched over the bike, wrench in hand, radio crooning low. Tom Petty's Learning to Fly, fitting his irony. He looked up, surprise melting into that easy grin, but it faltered when he saw my face. "Jay, what's up? You look like you swallowed a lemon." I shut the door behind me, the rain drumming a frantic rhythm on the tin roof. Tyke cornered me, said you were on the phone bawlin' to some guy in Chicago about coming out. The words tasted like ash, and I hated myself for them, for the accusation lurking underneath. Joe's wrench clattered to the concrete, his face draining of color faster than a fumbled handoff. "That son of a..." He was eavesdroppin'? "Jay, it wasn't like that. It was my cousin Marco. He's the only one who knows, been helping me sort through it since camp. No guy, no drama. Just family." Relief flooded me, hot and humiliating, but anger chased it. "Why didn't you tell me? After everything, you go to him instead." My voice rose, echoing off the rafters strung with Christmas lights year-round. Gio stepped closer, grease-streaked hands up like surrender. "Because you're the team, Jay. The heart of it all. I didn't want to load you down when you're already carrying the world. Mom's bills, coach's boot, that scout pressure. Protecting you means not dragging you into my mess. Your mess is my mess." I shot back, the garage shrinking around us, the air thick with motor oil and unspoken fears. "That's what brothers do. Or whatever we are." The whatever hung there, electric, pulling me toward him like gravity. He searched my face, hope flickering in those storm-gray eyes. "Then be my whatever, Jay. Stand with me, because Tyke, he's just the start. Word's gonna spread, and when it does..." A car horn blared outside, harsh and intrusive. Tyke's Mustang, idling like a predator. Joe's shoulders tensed, and through the grimy window, I saw him gesturing impatiently. "Forgot my tools," Gio muttered, grabbing his jacket. But as he brushed past, his hand grazed my chest, deliberate, lingering, and fire licked through me, chasing away the chill. "We'll finish this," he promised, voice low. "After the game. Win or lose, I'm not hiding anymore." Friday's championship against East Ridge was Armageddon under the lights, stadium packed with flannel-clad farmers and cheer moms clutching thermoses, the air crisp with November bite and the sizzle of tailgate grills. We were underdogs, written off by the indie star as Harlan's has-beens. But Gio and I moved like one mind, my throws threading needles, his routes slicing defense like butter. Halftime, up 14-10. Coach huddled us in the tunnel, spit flying. "This is it, boys. Leave it all on that field. No room for weak links. Tyke shot me a side eye, smirking like he held aces, and I knew then. He'd lit the fuse. Whispers rippled through the offense. Heard Russo's queer. Captain's covering for him. And by the third quarter, with us clinging to a 21-17 lead, it erupted. On a 3rd and long, my pump fake drew the corner, and I aired it deep to Gio, picture perfect, him leaping over the safety, hauling it in for 6. The crowd roared, but as he spiked the ball and turned, Tyke was there, shoving him hard in the chest. Fairy touchdown don't count, Russo. Save that prancing for the parade. The ref missed it in the scrum, but the damage landed. Fists flew. Me barreling in, tackling Tyke to the turf, helmets clacking like thunder. Ejections loomed. Flags dotted the field like confetti from hell, and coach yanked us both to the sideline, veins bulging. Hail! What the fuck? You trying to tank us? Gio pulled me back, his grip iron on my arm, but his eyes blazed. Not at Tyke, but at me, a silent, I told you so laced with something deeper, something that said, fight for us. We held on barely. Final score 24-20. Confetti cannons blasting under the floodlights as the clock hit 0. But victory tasted like bile, the locker room a powder keg. Tyke stormed in first, jersey half off, bellowing to the stragglers. We won in spite of him. Russo's the reason we're a joke. Whining to his boyfriend in Cheetown. The room froze, then erupted. Back slaps turning to shoves. Accusations flying like errant passes. I shoved through the chaos, spotting Gio backed against the sinks. Face a mask of controlled fury. A cut above his eye from the pylon. Enough! My roar cut the din. Fists balled at my sides. Tyke, you gutless snake. Spying on calls? Stirring shit? That's not team. That's treason. Heads turned. The fluorescent hum the only sound. Coach burst in then, towel snapping the doorframe. The hell's this circus? State title? And you're brawling like toddlers. Gio met my gaze over the heads. A nod so small it could have been a twitch, but it anchored me. Coach? I said, voice steady as a long count. Tyke's lion. Joe's family same as mine. And if loyalty's the issue, look in the mirror at the guy who preaches no weak links while letting poison spread. The words tumbled out, reckless, but true, years of Harlan's tough love cracking under the weight of what it hid. His own son's suicide a decade back, whispered as couldn't hack the pressure. Humanity in the heart of the hard-ass. Silence stretched, taut as a goal line stand, until Harlan's shoulders sagged. Out, all of you. Celebrate or sulk, your call. But tomorrow, we rebuild. Tyke slunk away, tail between legs, but the damage lingered, eyes darting like cornerbacks on a blitz. As the room emptied, Gio and I were alone again, the steam curling like question marks. You didn't have to do that, he said softly, dabbing his cut with a wet towel. Could have let it slide. I stepped closer, the tile cool underfoot, my hand finding his shoulder. Solid, real. Yeah, I did, because you're not a weak link, Gio. You're the damn chain that holds me together. His breath hitched, and in that suspended beat, the risk he'd taken weeks ago echoed back, demanding my own leap. The fallout hit like a nor'easter, whirlwind of rumors swirling through text chains and cafeteria lines, turning Lincoln High into a pressure cooker. Tyke got a 1-game suspension, conduct unbecoming, but it was a slap on the wrist, his dad's influence oiling the gears. Gio and I navigated the minefield shoulder to shoulder, our friendship a bulwark against the sideways stares and snickers. Fudge packers. Some sophomore scrawled on my locker, the Sharpie bleeding like an accusation. I scrubbed it off with Ajax, Gio watching from the doorway, his silence heavier than any punch. But beneath the grit, something bloomed, tentative, tender. We'd linger in the parking lot after dark, truck idling with the radio low on NPR Jazz, talking in circles about everything and nothing. Remember that road trip to the dunes last spring? He'd say, voice soft against the dashboard glow. Lake Michigan's waves crashing like applause, us burying a 6-pack in the sand, toasting to whatever comes next. I'd nod, throat tight, admitting fragments. The loneliness after Mom's late shifts, how his presence filled the hollows. You're my North Star, Jay. he'd murmur one night, hand resting on the gearshift inches from mine. Not crossing the line, but tracing it, electric with possibility. The real storm broke at the team banquet, VFW hall decked in red, white, and blue bunting, folding tables groaning under potluck casseroles and jello salads. Coach Harlan stood at the podium, mic feedback squealing like a bad omen, toasting our grit and glory, with a plastic cup of punch that smelled suspiciously spiked. Gio and I sat at the end of the captain's table, plates untouched, the weight of eyes pressing like humidity before thunder. Tyke, across the room with his crew, raised his glass mockingly when Harlan called us up for the trophy presentation. To Hale and Russo, the dynamic duo who dragged us kicking and screaming to the promised land, applause thundered, but as we shook hands with the old man, his grip lingered on Joe's, voice dropping low. Son, whatever shadows you're wrestling, don't let them dim your light. Seen too many boys like you, like my Tommy, fade out. His eyes, usually steel, softened with unshed grief, and in that crack, I glimpsed the man beneath the myth, the widower who'd buried a son to the silence of small-town shame. Gio swallowed hard, nodding, and we retreated to our seats amid backslaps. The moment a quiet victory. But Tyke wasn't done. Midway through the speeches, as the mayor droned about traditional values and Hoosier heart, my phone buzzed under the table. A group text from his circle. Grainy photo attached, time-stamped from the garage that rainy night. Me and Gio, silhouettes through the window, heads bent close, his hand on my chest. Caption: Captain's got a new playbook. Team betrayal, Russo rides again. The room tilted, forks clinking like alarm bells, as notifications lit up phones like fireflies in hell. Chaos erupted, gasps, whispers cresting to shouts, chairs scraping as folks surged. What the? Coach barked, snatching a phone, his face crumpling like wet newsprint. Tyke feigned shock, but his smirk betrayed him, the coward's crown.
I stud, skjer toppling, fury boiling over.
You leaked that? Our private talk? For what, likes, clout in this podunk town? The hall hushed, all eyes on us, the American dream curdling into nightmare. Gio rose beside me, pale but unbowed, his voice cutting clear. Yeah, it's true. Not the way you think, Tyke, not some scandal. It's love. Real, raw, the kind that doesn't fit your narrow playbook. And if that's betrayal, then guilty as charged. Gasps rippled, but he held steady, turning to me, eyes fierce with that same risk from the locker room. Jay, I took a chance on you because you're worth it. The trust, the fights, the quiet nights. It's all led here. Your move. The world narrowed to him. The boy who'd caught every pass, every glance, every fragile hope. Betrayal? Tyke's photo was a cheap shot, but it stripped us bare, forcing the truth into the light. Mom's voice echoed in my head, her chemo wisdom. Life's too short for half measures, kid. Love like you mean it. And I did. Heart slamming, I grabbed his hand, public, defiant, pulling him close enough to feel his pulse sync with mine. You're damn right it's love. And I'm in, Gio. All the way. The hall fractured. Some cheering, raw and real. Others muttering, filing out like storm clouds. Coach stepped forward, hand on my shoulder, voice gravel rough. Boys, hell get out. Before I embarrass myself with a hug. Laughter broke the tension, tentative. And as we slipped into the night, stars pricking the velvet sky over corn silk fields, the weight lifted. Tyke's crew scattered, whispers turning to white noise. The scouts called next week, offers from Purdue with a side of personal growth clauses. But we signed together, unbreakable. Months later, spring thaw greening the dunes, we drove north. Truck loaded with coolers and dreams. Lake Michigan calling like an old friend. No more hiding, just us against the horizon. His hand in mine over the console, Springsteen crooning about Born to Run hearts. Betrayal had cracked us open, but trust sealed the fissures, deeper now, laced with romance's quiet fire. In America's heartland, where flags wave and fields stretch endless, we carved our story. Not fairy tale, but human as hell. Flawed, fierce, and finally free. Back in that locker room echo, I'd realized it. The risk wasn't Joe's alone. It was ours. A leap into the unknown that landed us here. tangled in each other's truths. And damn if it wasn't the best play we ever called.